Sanjay, and I'm country manager for cloud services. The session which I'm going to take for another 25 minutes is to really give you an overview of what IBM software provides for the gaming solutions, right? So I would request you to be more interactive, ask any questions if you feel there is a need for that. However, I will keep last 5 minutes for any Q&A session, right? So today's leaders are leveraging cloud in multiple ways, right? So they are trying to optimize the existing IT infrastructure, which gives them a room for innovation, right? So they try to see that how they are able to optimize the existing systems and to move those funds to actually innovate new solutions, right? Which is giving drive for need for continuous IT optimization, which fuels the innovation part of an organization, right? From IBM's cloud point of view, there are two workloads predominantly, right? One is cloud-enabled and one is cloud-centric, right? Cloud-enabled are the workloads which are existing as of today, right? The systems which are working with the old systems, right? But need certain fine-tunement in terms of making those workloads able to be deployed on a cloud scenario. Having said that, then there is another category which is cloud-centric, or what we call it cloud-native. These are the type of applications or the workloads which are born on the web, live on the web, right? So they get continuously delivered from the web perspective, right? From just giving a snapshot of what IBM offers on the smart cloud managed services portfolio, predominantly three categories. So I'll be focusing on the first one, which is software. I'm sure most of you would have heard this announcement coming in print media as well. IBM acquired a company by name Softlayer, which was a leader in the cloud infrastructure provider space in July of this year, right? Then we have got other offerings where we are trying to bundle managed services around that, and that's what comes into what is called the Smart Cloud Enterprise Plus. Having said that, today's agenda, today's focus for the session will be to really give you a view of what IBM Softlayer provides for entrepreneurs, for gamers, who would like to deploy games as quickly as possible, who would need the infrastructure, whether it is bare metal or a virtualized infrastructure, enhancing the business agility part of it. This software is an IBM company, is a global hosting provider. We have got around 21,000 customers onboarded on this offering from 140 countries. So that itself shows the scale, the depth and breadth of this offering across globe, right? Number of devices in terms of what is managed by Softlayer is around 1 lakh devices, right? And we have got 13 data centers, right? This Softlayer is delivered from cloud-enabled data centers from 13 of that across globe. The nearest one, what we have for Asia Pacific, is in Singapore. Apart from the data centers, Softlayer has got a concept of what is called the network POPs, which is a point of presence. So a network POP is a sort of an aggregation point. Like for example, if all the India customers are leveraging, say, Softlayer, Singapore or Amsterdam or US, all of that network gets aggregated and then pushed onto Softlayer's global private network, right? So that is the advantage what Softlayer brings to the customers in terms of enhancing the latency, enhancing in terms of making it almost sub 40 millisecond latency between from wherever any of the cities from India across to data centers, right? A working definition. So I'm sure most of you are aware, but just to reiterate the facts, cloud computing, on-demand compute with a consumptive billing. That means whenever you need an infrastructure for any of the gaming, for any of your needs, you get as and when it is needed, and you get billed for the consumption part of it, right? So you as an end user from the cloud perspective really don't pay anything on the capex, right? So you have got a need, you need an infrastructure, you just go to softlayer.com, provision that, give the necessary details, whatever is asked, and within minutes your server is up and running, right? So initially, if you see with the way cloud computing started over the last 3-4 years, predominantly it has started with virtualization and having a model which is multi-tenant, right? But that model really didn't scale in terms of getting all the necessary workloads, right? One of the workloads which I'll be touching upon in my subsequent slide is in terms of a gaming solution, right? What are the typical challenges for a gaming solution, and how does Softlayer address that part of it, right? Software, a unified architecture, a better platform for variant workloads which can be deployed on that. So it has got a combination of bare metals where you as an end user, if there are workloads which are IO intense, or there are workloads which needs much more latency in terms of having compute. So you have got an option of getting a bare metal. That means you are getting a physical server, but your consumption model still remains the same. So either you can get charged on an hourly basis or you can get charged on a monthly basis, right? So having said that, that is the bare metal part of it. Then there is the other part of it which is virtualized. In the virtualized environment, you have got an option of leveraging a public cloud, or you have got the option of leveraging a private cloud for yourself. So you can create a self-managed private cloud for yourself, and in case there is a need for you to go for a public cloud, you can leverage that part of it. So this gives a snapshot of what software brings from the infrastructure perspective, a bare metal and a virtualized environment. And the unique thing which software brings to the table for the end users is that there is a single common management platform, right, which it leverages to provision or deploy, whether it's a bare metal request or whether it's a request for a virtual environment. So you have got a unified architecture which links all these three pillars, right, in terms of bare metal, in terms of public virtualized cloud or a private virtualized cloud, and you get a single interface to provision any one of them. Right? From the global footprint perspective, as I mentioned earlier, 13 data centers, 17 network POPs, so that gives a huge flexibility to end users to deploy their workloads to any of the data centers or leverage any of the existing point of presence. They manage around 1 lakh servers, 21,000 customers, and this is growing. This is around 2 months old, and I'm sure this would have crossed 25,000 by this time. And you have got 22.2 crore, 22 million domains which they manage, right? So this is the sheer breadth and depth of in terms of what software as a global footprint takes care of, right? As I said, software, standard modular infrastructure, it is based on the cloud model. So you get x86 infrastructure on demand, right? So you have got a flexibility to build your own cloud, right? For example, there might be a workload like gaming where there's a specific need for cores, there's a specific need for CPU, or there's a specific need for RAM. So you get a flexibility to build your own cloud, and based on that you are able to provision and get billed only on an hourly basis or on a monthly basis, right? Complete control, right? So typically you will see many of the cloud service providers, you have got only access to your cloud infrastructure only through a desktop or a laptop. But software extends that control mechanism even to your smartphone or to your tab, right? So from a smartphone or a tab, with the application you will be able to remotely monitor and manage your server infrastructure, meaning with the push of a button from your smartphone, you will be remotely able to reboot your server, change the configuration, or put any service request which goes to the software backend team to provision that, right? So you have got all the variants from the control and user perspective, which gives a flexibility for you as an user not to be tied to your desk, but gives you a flexibility to control from any of the smartphones, which includes iOS, Android, and Windows OS. This is a typical snapshot of service portfolio. I will not get into the details of that, but the gist is you don't only get the compute, which is the server storage, but you get additional services of network, you get additional services of load balancing, you get an additional service of firewall. Now, depending on what exactly is your requirement, most of the requirements what we have seen a typical customer will have is getting fulfilled from software and is not restricted only to the compute part of it. Right? Just coming to what does bare metal server mean. So typically I'm sure most of you will know, if I have to really purchase a bare metal server and get it installed, typical time for procurement, for ordering and installing configuration is in terms of 6 to 7 weeks, right? But at the same time can be really has been brought down to 2 to 4 hours. So you just need 2 to 4 hours to provision a bare metal server, right? So that is the way bare metal is giving a flexibility to really get your server up and running as and when it is needed, right? It has got a concept of flex image. That means if you have got something on a dedicated server, right, and over the period of time you want to really move that to the virtualized environment within SoftLayer. So if you use a flex image concept, you will be able to snapshot or mirror that workload and then seamlessly migrate it over to a virtualized environment, right. Pricing is again, as I said, monthly. In certain cases it's hourly, but this is the advantage which we bring to the customers in terms of trying to build their own cloud, right. As I said, there is not one part is a standard service cloud, that is okay, but there is another part where you as an end customer, depending on the needs of your workload, right, you can really build your own cloud. Say you can really specify how many cores you want, you can specify how many CPUs you want, you can specify how much RAM you want, you can specify what is the platform like CentOS Linux, and you will be able to provision and configure that server within 2 to 4 hours. This is the other part of the SoftLayer offering, which is virtualized. As I said, virtualized environment, what we call is cloud computing instances, right. So you should be able to get an virtualized environment up and running in just 15 to 20 minutes, right. So you put a request for provisioning a virtualized environment, your server will be, or your VM will be up and running in 15 to 20 minutes, right. So in this also we have got two categories. One is public, so that means public cloud compute instances will be those where you as a customer will be using those virtual machines on a shared infrastructure, but you as a customer will be isolated at the core level. What we commit to the customers is that in a case of a virtualized environment, we commit to a clock speed of at least 2 gigahertz, which no other cloud service provider as of today is giving across the globe, right. You have also got an ability to, or flexibility to really see that in case you don't want to leverage the public virtualized environment, you want to have a dedicated single tenant. SoftLayer gives you a flexibility of having that environment which is dedicated for you as a customer, so that it becomes more of a private cloud for you. So this is what helps in terms of building a private cloud which is managed by SoftLayer. That means you will be able to create a management server, you will be able to create number of host servers and attach those host servers to the management servers, but that is what is managed by SoftLayer. But you have got an option of where you can have your self-managed virtualized environment as such, right. So depending on what is the hypervisor, depending on what is the environment you build. So these are some of the examples what I have put which is supported as of today, where you have got Citrix Xen, Microsoft Hyper-V, VMware, and Virtuoso as one of the indicative list of where you can build private cloud using these hypervisors. Any questions, any queries so far? Right. So as I said, SoftLayer is not only compute, right, it gives options of storage as well, and the options of storage ranges from the bare metal service which gets associated with the storage, where you can align either an NFS or a GPFS mount sort of thing. You have got an ability or a flexibility to have object store as well. You can attach, say for example, if you have got a bare metal, then it has got an storage which is ephemeral. That means it remains there till the time VM is there. But in case you want to retain something beyond the life of the VM, then you can attach a particular NAS or a SAN storage to that VM, right. This is one of the unique things which again SoftLayer brings from the network perspective, right. It has got a triple network architecture. So what does that mean for you as an end user of SoftLayer? That means every physical server or every virtualized server has got 5 NIC cards, network interface cards. 2 of those cards act as a redundant mode for you to access on the public network. Like for example, if you are accessing SoftLayer over internet, you will be able to access using these 2 interface cards which is available on the physical server. 2 of them are used for private network. That means if you are creating a VPN or a VLAN, then those 2 network interfaces are used to connect to the private clouds. And the 5th one, right, which is typically a management network interface to do certain management interfaces, which is actually using on the common management platform. So there is a high level of redundancy available from the network perspective, and because of these reasons, SoftLayer is able to commit an SLA of 100%, whether it is VM availability or network availability. And adding to this point is, As I said, software has got 13 data centers and 17 network POPs. All these data centers and network POPs are actually connected by the software's own private network. That means a traffic which is happening between a software data center 1 to the software data center 2 is actually travels on software's private network, giving flexibility to the customer in terms of reduced latency, and whatever traffic happens between two data centers is free of cost. Right? So you don't, software or IBM doesn't charge customers for any data traffic between these two software data centers. And the second advantage is that, for example, if your production environment is running in a data center software 1 and you want to have a DR, so you can really have software data center 2 and act as a replication between two of these data centers. Load balancing, as I said, so there are multiple options. One of them is global load balancing, which is actually distributing the traffic between various software data centers. It can be configured instantly. So everything what I am talking is something which can be configured, provisioned by a customer by using a self-service portal. So that means if you as an end customer sign an account with software, you get a self-service portal to provision, whether it is server, whether provision a storage, or even provide any provisioning of any load balancing features, right? So similar on the global load balancing, you have got a similar feature which is used within the local data center of the software, which is local load balancing, right? Which helps in terms of distributing the traffic between the same data center. And added to that, we also support what is called the Citrix's NetScaler. I'm sure most of you will be aware. This is not only a load balancing appliance, but also helps as a firewall. So all the options, depending on what your workload demands, how exactly your end users are going to connect to the server or the storage infrastructure, you get both global, local, as well as NetScaler as an option to leverage. Coming to the API, this is an important aspect, mainly from the fact that the amount of APIs which are exposed by a cloud service provider gives an ability to an end user, to a business partner to really leverage those APIs and enhance the functionality which is existing in the software, right? So there are around 2,000 APIs which are exposed by software for all of you to leverage in terms of enhancing the functionality, right? And you can in fact do what is called, for example, leverage the API set to do auto scaling. Like for example, if your workload is working on a particular configuration of a bare metal or a virtualized, what exactly is happening in the gaming solutions right now, right? So for game developers or publishers, I think agility or the responsiveness, right, in terms of capturing and pleasing players around the world, right? So they expect faster turnaround time in terms of developing the game, testing it and putting into a production environment, right? So all these things is what software platform allows you to do, right? You are able to scale the needs in terms of spikes for your traffic, because there might be certain instances when that game is accessed by huge number of users. So you need to really scale up to meet that demand. So software provides that. One high-speed global network, as I said, all the software data centers and network POPs are connected by software's own global private network, which gives high speed, high robustness, and lower latency, right? And fully automated platform, right? As I said, the platform, there is a single management platform which software provides in terms of catering to your needs, whether it is in terms of provisioning any server or provisioning any additional services. And bottom, I have put some of the use cases where software has been there. There are good number of gaming customers who are already leveraging software for these features, for these attributes. And some of the use cases what we have seen is in terms of production environment, content management, content delivery, and testing environment, right? Having said that, so this is what exactly IBM software brings for the gaming solution. So you have got database servers, you have got content delivery network, so you get everything whatever is needed for that game which is deployed on a software infrastructure to be easily accessible to the users, right? So you have got features of content delivery network which gets augmented with the infrastructure. You have got a global private network which actually helps in terms of easing the load across various data centers, right? So software brings you the aspects which a typical gaming solution needs, right? And those aspects is something which I'll touch upon one of the case studies, right? I'm sure you must be knowing. Clue was a customer. It is founded in 2011, closely works with Facebook, right? It's an entertainment company, Interactive, and their business driver was really start, because they were just like starting into the business and they were really getting huge requirements. So the need was for a flexible, scalable, and robust platform, right? But the challenge was they didn't want to have it without any long-term commitment or a capital outflow, right? So they approached Softlayer, and when we discussed with them in terms of what Softlayer brings them as a platform, that's where they said that this is the right platform for them to really go, and still they have been deployed on Softlayer, right? Like some of the business benefits, right? They didn't have to sign a long-term contract, so it was more of a consumptive model. That means they were able to get billed only for what they consume, protected from downtime. So we assured them a SLA of 100%, whether it's at VM level or at network level, right? Choice of public, private, and bare metal, as I mentioned. So they were able to migrate or intermix the workload between all these environments. CPU intensive algorithms were there where they leverage the bare metal, and they really didn't have to really put capex money to build that bare metal, because once they onboarded on Softlayer, bare metal was based or was built to them on an hourly or a monthly basis. So there was no capital overflow. And there's a statement which says Softlayer is able to get us all the performance and the bandwidth that we need in an extremely flexible way that suits our industry and our product requirement. This was one of the statements made by CEO of Flow, right? And this case study is available. If you go to softlayer.com and search for case study, this will be the case study which is published for external world in the gaming and entertainment segment. Right? Some of the customers who have been using an indicative list, as I said, it's 21,000. Not possible to put all of them, but just to give you the varied industries, the various technology domains in which Softlayer is being leveraged. And this is what I have put in terms of the gaming, right? So there are a lot of gaming organization, gaming people like Electrotank, Garena, Hyperinia, Peak, right? And Kulu is one of them, right? Who are leveraging Softlayer in a big way, right? In the mobile communication, you have got Bump, Instapaper, Yellow, being where all their things is deployed on Softlayer, right? So this is an indicative list in terms of how exactly Softlayer fills the requirement of various customers and users across domains, right? It is not restricted to only CIO sort of thing or IT requirement, but it cuts across social, platform as a service. You have games and entertainment as well, right? So that is what I intended to cover in my 20-25 minutes. My request is, if you have got any questions, please do ask now, or you can go to softlayer.com. Everything, whatever you want to know about Softlayer is available there in terms of the models, in terms of how do you connect. In fact, there is a trial going on for 1 month. So you have got and flexibility to leverage that. So you have got a 1 month, you will get server free of cost. So you can register for that on softlayer.com. Right. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask and I will respond.